Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome to your program. You're watching 7th Round on Label TV, your Pan-African channel, every Sunday at 4 p.m. exactly Central African Time. I am not alone on this set. On my right, you have Mr. Gauthier Perchano of the English newsroom of Label Television. Gauthier Perchano, good afternoon and welcome.
Good afternoon, Eva.
How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm doing absolutely great.
Okay, and online we are going to have a young Cameroonian entrepreneur from Belgium and a lady who is 100% Pan-Africanist, who is going to discuss with us on the 3 major topics of information we have today. The first one is about the dangers or ills of social network on the African society by young Africans. The second topic in line with the first one is the emerging social ills in the Cameroonian society as a whole. And the third topic we're going to talk about this astonishing woman, Oprah Winfrey, from the Mississippi to the White House. What is the account for the 2020 presidential elections in the United States? But first, we unfold this program. When they wake up in the morning, looking up their mobile phone is now becoming their first move. When they are in a bus, during long trip, in restrooms, or even on sidewalks, or even, I meant to say, in classrooms, the first attitude the young people have is to not to leave their social networks anymore. The question of today is beyond the benefits of social networks. What can be the dangers? We listen to the report signed Gauthier Perchano, and we'll be back on set.
Using social media is one of the most popular activities of today's youth. A study conducted by Eurostat shows that internet use has increased since 2006, especially in families with children. For example, in Belgium, it went from 49% in 2006 to 89% in 2010. 70% of young people aged 16 to 24 send messages to discussion forums, blogs, social networks such as Facebook, MySpace, WhatsApp, Messenger, Twitter, etc. Social networks are particularly popular because they make it possible to make contacts around the world, to find people who share their interests, and to communicate with them directly. However, although several benefits derive from these social networks, the disadvantages and the resulting dangers are numerous as they are varied. One study found that social networks are the main driver of debauchery among young people. Indeed, the advent of dating and discussion forums made the game of chatting up easier and simpler. For example, in an online group of up to 100 members or more, the question of choice is no big deal. Whereas there are groups whose discussions are based only on sex issues. For example, everyone can send photos or videos of him in full intimacy with his or her partner. Also, the social networks specialize in the video calls like Skype, now Imo and WhatsApp, so on and so forth. The use is more shocking. Indeed, young users go as far as filming the most intimate parts of their bodies. One of the other dangers that young people do not know is that images posted on social networks could be compromising. If an employer does extensive research on you, he may come across old photos of you that are several years old that may still, unfortunately, play against you. One should be careful of what is to be posted on social media because numerous are careless professionals whose careers have been destroyed by these media who seem harmless at first look.
So, ladies and gentlemen, you got it in the report signed Gauthier Perchano. Now, because the first topic is in line with the second topic, we move to Cameroon as the government officially launched a pilot campaign for community mobilization and sensitization on emerging social ills in secular and extra-secular environment. The report is signed by our correspondent in Yaoundé, Elise Kenibeni. Then we'll be back for the debate.
The community mobilization campaign launch targets teachers and students in a bid to fight against emerging social ills and guarantee to children an effective enjoyment of their rights and well-being. The campaign, to run in all 10 regions of the country, comes in to tackle the recurrent incidents observed in some high schools due to drug consumption. Social affairs and secondary education ministers emphasize on a massive sensitization of students on drug consumption, poor usage of social networks, and gambling. Close to 270 students have been selected for this pilot phase and were called on to act as peer educators.
Rumor, you just have bad ideas when sometimes we walk in the street and they stop us to their aim is to maybe take some money from us.
We see those type of students usually try to attract their intention and talk with them like friends.
In school campuses such as the Government Bilingual Practicing High School of Yaoundé, measures were put in place to track down drug consumers.
They're not following classes, they're always outside trying to do bad things, fighting, gambling, stealing. Some our discipline master try to send them maybe to go and fetch them for water. They try to put some inside to give to the discipline master. And when we see those type of students, we usually go with them to the principal office.
The permanent secretary of the National Committee in charge of the fight against drugs said psychologists and social aid workers should be recruited in schools. Pascal Awono said most students get involved in drug consumption due to trauma and other social reasons.
Okay, now we are going to talk about these two major topics who are influencing the development of teenagers on the African continent with Gotiper Channel and I. Let me remind you, ladies and gentlemen, that we have a young entrepreneur and 100% Pan-Africanist, a young Cameroonian. Her name is Kele Farida from Belgium, Brussels in Belgium. She is with us to debate and give her opinion and her point of view according to this topic which influences many African societies. Gotiper Channel, before we get to Mrs. Kele Farida, what do you think as a youth about the upcoming of social networks in the African society?
So definitely, Eva, thank you for inviting me on this wonderful set because it's always a very big pleasure to come here and to discuss major issues. So thank you once again. So what I have to say about the use of social networks, by the African youth is, first of all, we have to understand that social network is a tool that is given to us so as to convey certain activities, to convey communication and to convey maybe marketing issues. But we have remarked that the youth now have been taking the wrong side of it, so they use it in a very wrong manner. For example, you have some young people who don't sleep at night. They only waste the whole time chatting over internet. And when they go back to school, they're just sleepy during the class. So this is one of the dangers. And also another danger is when you are on internet, we have some kind of predators. So some people who are old who spend their time just chatting up some young girls on internet. So this can also be one of the dangers. And unfortunately, our children and also our young sisters and brothers are daily exposed to this phenomenon, and this is pretty sad.
Mrs. Kele Farida, if the production permits us, and the powerful sound engineer we have here, Mr. Bill Mange, if he tells us that it is okay for us to get Mrs. Kele Farida, are you getting me?
Hello, yes, I'm getting you 100%.
Okay, thank you for accepting to be part of this debate on Liberal Television, the Pan-African channel who is branding Africa's image.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, my first question, you as a young Pan-Africanist and young entrepreneur who is residing in Europe, what do you think about the coming of the internet and this facility that the young people are having on the African continent to use social networks nowadays? What do you think about the positive or negative aspects?
Well, I think that, let's start with the positive. I think that positively, the fact that they have access to internet can, some of them use it the positive way by learning, by cultivating themselves, and by getting information they can't have directly on the African continent. A lot of people have seen in Africa use, for example, YouTube videos and social media to develop their businesses, to see what is going on in life, to be in contact with new technologies and innovation. And that is the good part. But the bad part of it is that many use it as a come up in their personal life, for example, and they use the bad side of what they get back from internet. For example, they see Instagram models as the new it thing to become. They use it to I'm sorry, they use it to expose people's lives and intimacy. For example, we've seen a lot of women see their private parts on internet, their private life on internet, just because so
Yes,
and so
and
doesn't like them.
not to cut
So
you
I
short,
think it's
Mrs. Farida Kele, it's not to cut you short, but talking about the fact that some women see their private part exposed on the internet, it is something that has somehow become normal for people.
Yes, and that's a very bad thing because in my intimacy, I don't want to find myself for millions of people to see. And I feel like a lot of African youth, especially, use it as revenge. For example, as we've heard a lot of revenge porn, I can send pictures to my boyfriend in our intimacy, and I don't understand why. The day he gets mad at me or the day he's angry, he will just put it on the internet for everybody to see, and I lose my privacy as a woman. This is a really, really bad thing phenomenon happening in the African community nowadays, and I think internet has a lot to do with it. And if we can work on that, it will be a really good thing because a lot of young women have seen their life destructed because of this.
Yes, but talking about that, I will come back to you, Mrs. Kele Farida. Let me talk to Mr. Perchano. Mr. Perchano, do you think who are those responsible for this exposure on the internet? Who are the people responsible, the causes of this change in the culture? Because we now talk about the culture of the Africans who is being bypassed by these habits.
Okay, I think the main responsibles are the users themselves. Because when something is given to you so as to use it in a positive way, if you decide to walk on the wrong side of it, so you have to bear the responsibility. See, as she was just saying, some people might use, those tools for revenge. For example, if I've been into a relationship with somebody, and this person is supposed to give me some money after that, and the person doesn't want to pay, for example, I can blackmail the person over
We
internet.
even had some cases here in Gabon of some ladies who were dating general managers or ministers, and in the end, because they were asking for millions of francs CFA from those men, they had pictures and they exposed them.
Of course, they expose them. And so coming back to the question of responsibility, so who is holding responsibility? I think the responsibility is on the side of the user, because I think that, this is a moral situation, and it is also a moral problem. It has to do with the morals of the person, the moral principles of the person. It's not because I want, to claim something that I will just destroy your career, I will destroy your whole life. Just imagine that the person whose photos you are just exposing on the internet, the person has family, he has children, he has his wife, he has
colleagues.
He has colleagues. So I think going that far is too much. So the responsibility is on the side of the user.
But Mrs. Kele Farida, if you're still with us, do you think that this change in mentality is not due a little to the social networks? The change in African mentality?
Yes, it's totally because of that, because this is not something that is in our culture. I think in the African culture, we're really private. As they say in French, le linge sale se lave en famille. With dirty laundry is always within the family, within the close group. And the fact that internet gives a lot of power to people, because it's very easy to hide behind your screen and to do negative things and to do bad things than to actually do it yourself. So I feel like internet has given so much
courage.
So much wings and courage to some people that are really disturbed, because you have to be a disturbed person to go that far in order to hurt someone. And we call them on the social network dialogue, we call them Twitter fingers or internet thugs, because they can do it normally or in person, so they hide behind their computers. And exactly, because you need to know that our cultures, we are really influenced by the American society, and in their society and in their culture, nakedness, being naked, nudity, it's not something that is bad for them.
Or
they
strange,
have a lot of
it's not something
clubs.
which is weird for them.
Yes, they have a lot of strip clubs, and for a young woman to find herself naked on Instagram is actually not a problem for her. But in our culture, we weren't brought up like that. Our parents didn't teach us to be naked on the internet. So I think they misunderstand there is actually, we're actually losing our culture into all these things that we see on social media and thinking that it is the right thing to do while it is not, because we are losing our identity in that.
Yes, and I would like we are talking about the Cameroonian society and the Cameroonian government, who has launched a sensitization campaign on the ills of social networks and the ills of the use of drugs in schools. What is your point of view about this?
In Cameroon, I think that it's good to launch a campaign, but if they need to tell us what is the main aim of that campaign, how are they going to control that? It's a good thing, but it needs to be clear. It needs to have a very clear objective. Are we just doing it because, well, we need to do it, or because we are really looking for a solution? Because it's actually really difficult to control somebody's actions on the internet. For example, I know a lot of websites or social networks that people use to expose people's lives. I will not call them names, but it's been going on for 2 years, and this particular page has been existing for a large amount of years. And why is it that it's still open? They haven't found the IP address of the person behind it, and the person hasn't been held accountable for all the lives they have destructed. So it's a good thing, but it needs to be it needs to have a clear objective, and people need to be really held accountable for everything they do on the internet, if that's the road they're taking.
And talking about that, we are also talking about this new fashion for youth, the use of drugs. Let me go back to Mr. Gauthier Perchano. More and more in our African societies, we get to see that many more youths consume drugs. What is the cause of that?
So I think there are a lot of causes, for the use of drug. But allow me, with your permission, I would like to come back a little bit on the previous topic. I was not totally okay with the woman when she was saying that the change, in our culture and in our society is due to the American society, or is due to the upcoming of social media. So I don't totally agree with it. I think the major problem, that is the cause or the source of the change in our social habits is the costs of life. The cost of life is too high today, and people are now chasing money, so they don't have time anymore to educate the children at home. Sometimes you will even see some families, the mother is working, the father is also working, and so they just confine the education of the children to a maid.
But what I think Mrs. Keller was trying to say is that young people, young Africans are influenced by what they see on the social networks from other societies, like the American societies. True or false?
Yeah, of course. I think they are in part, part influenced. But I think the biggest deal or the biggest problem has to do with, the family that is actually being upside down. So we cannot see this order anymore like before, where the parents were there to control the education of the children. And also today you can have a child that is aged 6 years old only with a computer of his own in his bedroom. So there's no parental control, there is no control at all. So the child is free to do whatever he can, just go and fetch over internet at night. So I think here is the cause. So I think we should actually see the parents as the main cause, because abandoning the education of the children to the maid is not good. So the only direction where we can go with such way of doing things is what we can see today out. So now coming back to the use of drug in Cameroon and also the campaign in Cameroon, I think this is a very...
That campaign is not only a campaign which has been launched in Cameroon, because even here in Gabon, we are broadcasting, I recently saw that in schools like Lycée Léon-Ba, without doing any publicity, the government has launched, there are people at the entrances who search in the bags of the youth in order to find drugs, condoms like kobolos and weed, what they call weed, and everything to make away so that they shouldn't bring those drugs into the schools. So isn't that a major step for the African countries?
Of course, it is a major step to the African countries. And let me remind you also that the problem is not only located, or the problem is not only typical of Gabon and Cameroon. It's all over Africa.
It's global.
It's a global problem. You know, of course, unfortunately, we can see that young people are in search of drug consumption more and more, and I think launching such a sensitization is just a very good thing. But what I have to say is that the sensitization has to be something which is to be sustained. So they have to follow it up, because right now you mentioned Lycée Leomba, where there was the police just at the entrance, at the gate of the school. But today, if you go back there, you wouldn't see the cops anymore just there. You see, so I think there is a problem of follow up. So the authorities, they better not only launch something, but also have to follow it up and sustain the whole thing. And so I hope in Cameroon the campaign will be sustained, because it is a very good thing. You know, it's always bad for a father to see how drug destroys his children. So
and Mrs. Kele Farida, I come back to you to ask you, what do you think is the cause or the origins of the rise in consumption of drugs by teenagers on the African continent?
Well, I would think that it's because, honestly, when I look at things, I think about depression. I think that mental illness and obviously depression is something that we don't really talk about in our community, because you need to know that when these young people take drugs, it's because they want to feel better. They want to feel good. They want to I don't know, they want to forget about their worries. They want to forget about the way that their life is going and that they don't like. It's not the only thing. I will always come back to influences, because they watch a lot of rap music where they talk about cocaine and drugs as if it's a cool thing. So I also think that this is another influence from that. But the core thing is mostly because I feel like the youth on the African continent are in a very bad position right now. They're really suffering mentally. I don't think they're in a good space, because they don't really see an opportunity for a better life on the African continent, and they're trying to look for anything that can make them feel better, because we can talk about drugs, but also alcohol, which is some sort of drug. But the consumption of alcohol in the youth community is also increasing as much as drugs. So yeah, I would think
talking about alcohol, Cameroon, Gabon, and Chad are ranked among the first countries in the overall ranking in the world in consumption of alcohol. They are among the first 5 countries with the highest level of consumption of alcohol in the world.
Yes, and it shows, and it's normal, because if you look at the amount of youth working in Cameroon, for example, because that's my country and that's what I know, there aren't a lot. So after school, they graduate from school and they stay home 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and they start asking themselves, what will I become? What am I doing in my life? My life isn't going the way I want it to be. Then they feel bad. And the only thing that they can do is go to a bar and drink their worries up into alcohol. Or for those that can afford it, go back to drugs and forget about the fact that their life is not what they want it to be. So it's a perspective that we need to find a solution to that, and to give back the dream to the youth on the African continent. We need to let them start back dreaming, because I think they don't dream anymore. They don't aspire for a better life anymore, because they can see.
But I'm tempted to ask you a question. When you're talking about the lack of employment on the African continent, does it mean that you, as an African who live in Europe, you don't see some youths there who take drugs or who consume a lot of alcohol? Or is there not also a problem of lack of job opportunities in Europe?
I think in Europe there is a problem. There is lack of job opportunity, but there is always work to do. I have an MBA in international business management. If I don't find work in my field, I will find work elsewhere.
Yeah.
There is always something to do here, because if I stay home, then it's just because I didn't find something. A lot of people don't find work after they graduated from the major they graduated in, but they find something else to do. A lot of others convert into cleaning ladies, which is not a good thing. That's another problem. But at least they have option B and C and D, while in Africa or in Cameroon, they don't even have option A to look forward to, because coming back to cyberbullying and to everything that happens on the internet, I have a lot of people complaining that when they go and apply for a job, the management will ask them to sleep with them in order to get the job. And sometimes I know a young lady who said that the person supposed to hire her asked her that, and she said she taped him so that he can use it as a leverage upon her, and she has a protection so that the next time if he asks her to undress herself or to sleep with him, then she will tell him, oh, I have proof that you're harassing me, and I can put it on the internet. So I think it's some sort of a circle that I don't even know how to come out from. But here in Europe, there is an unemployment problem, but there are always options, while in Africa, there is an unemployment problem and there is no other option than not working.
Is the problem, Mr. Gauthier Perchano, is the problem of unemployment not on the fact that young Africans don't think about being entrepreneurs themselves, they await everything from the government?
I think, what we have to say is that a problem of entrepreneurship, no, I don't think so. When we talk of entrepreneurship, we talk of an idea. And I think Africans, of course, they have good ideas. They even have ideas which can pay. But the problem is the accompaniment, okay? I know a lot of young guys who have very good ideas, but they're not accompanied in financial terms or in other terms, so they cannot apply this idea
to help the society.
To help the society, okay. I think this is one of the biggest problem. And if just imagine, you will tell. Last time I was talking to a friend who's from Canada, and she came to spend a little time, a summer time here, and then we were discussing, this entrepreneurship idea. And she was saying that there in Canada, for example, there are some people who go to universities so as to search ideas from young people and to subsidize them and to fund them, while here we don't have those people, we don't have such people. And I think this is where it smells the rat. So also coming to the problem of the use of drug by young people, I think if we want to really find a solution to the problem, we really have to see or to detect where the problem lies, the root of the problem. Let me take you an example. You see, in Panama, for example, they have launched a new policy. What they do there is, when a young guy has been arrested, he goes to jail, but in jail there it's not a fatality. What they will do there, they will give him a training, and he has to qualify, School continues over there, he qualifies. And when he qualifies, he gets his degree from the jail. And when he comes out of the jail, they will not only let him out for free for himself, to do by his own means, but they will follow him up. It means that they will try to have him a contract with the company. And when the young guy
That's also the case for the United States.
That's also the case of the United States. And why can't we Africans apply the system here, knowing well that you worked over there? And as the woman was just saying,
Mrs.
Kele Farida, as she was just saying, I don't think that kids are taking drugs just at random. They take drugs because they want to forget about their sorrows. They take drugs because they want to forget about the problems, and of course the worries. And so just imagine they have another chance, another opportunity to have a job. I don't think the kids will go down in the street so as to get drugs again. I don't think.
Mrs. Farida, talking about the unemployment rate in Africa, which according to you is rather high, I wanted to know, don't you think that, I return to you the same question I was asking Mr. Perchano, don't you think that this is due to the fact that young people await a lot from governments and don't take personal initiatives in order to accomplish their dreams?
Exactly, but you need to know that entrepreneurship, because I am an entrepreneur myself. It comes from willingness, and it comes from imagination. You have to be creative, and in order to be creative and find a solution to a certain idea, the environment in which you grow in needs to be favorable to your creative thinking. Of course, they wait a lot from the government, which is not good. But on the other hand, there are a lot of entrepreneurs who have ideas, and they go to some people with their ideas and they get shut down. I know a lot of entrepreneurs, for example, who were waiting for finances to finance their projects, but they can't have it either. So exactly, a lot of youth needs to be entrepreneur. I think it's also due to the fact that they don't already have the culture of working together. For example, if I have an idea, then another person has money, we get together and we make things work, because that's how it works a lot here in European communities and society. So this is also something that needs to change in in our societies. We need to learn how to work together and encourage each other, because I can be an entrepreneur, I can have everything I need to for my project to work, but sometimes I need the support of my friends. I need the support of my parents. I need some people to believe in me and to come and buy from me. They need to come together and form groups, for example, of people. As they say, alone I go far, I go fast, but together we go further. Yeah, we're stronger. Yeah, we're stronger. So I think they need to sort of stop depending on the government, start believing in their dreams, and you need to know that in order for someone to believe in your dream, sometimes some people need the approval of others. Some people need others to believe in them. And I don't think that our governments are in that optic of really believing in the youth. For example, I think if we start seeing a lot of youth in government functions, in government administrations, then it's going to drag other youth to sort of do something and start working too on their own. But when you look at our governments, everybody, for example, in Cameroon, because I don't know the situation in Gabon, in Cameroon, everybody is old, and there is nothing new.
The ideas are not fresh.
And youth
There's
are like,
nothing new about the ideas.
Excuse me?
I mean, there's nothing new about the ideas in the development of the Cameroonian society, because most of the governments are old. But for you, we're talking about the case of Gabon. Here in Gabon, the head of the state, His Excellency Ali Bongo Ondimba, when he launched his last campaign for his new mandate at the head of the state, he put the youth and the women in front of this campaign, and he's made sure in his new government there are a lot of youth and a lot of women. It is also the case in Kenya, it is the case in Benin, but in Cameroon we still see these old people, this sort of group around the head of the state of the country who don't obviously have new ideas or new policies in order to include the youth of the country, to join them, to accompany them in the development of the country.
Which is a very good thing, because innovation can only come from youth, because we are the ones living the new technologies.
And we are the future generation of the continent.
Sorry?
We are the future generation of the continent.
Yes, exactly. And women actually are better. I don't want to say it on national television, but I strongly think that women are better leaders, are better managers, especially nowadays. For example, last year, for the Women's Day across the world, the thematic was mostly based on women. And I remember that one minister here in Belgium said, if we want to see things change, we need to let women start deciding, because they are really the bearers of the humanity, and they know what we need. So I think it's a really good thing. When you look at Cameroon, you don't see a lot of women in administrations or in the government or amongst the people deciding. You don't see a lot of youth, and I think that's what is really draining Cameroon behind, because it has so much potential to be a strong country, and I think they need to take example on Gabon.
And talking about women, I think it is the occasion to say a big hello and congratulations, and obviously thanks a lot to this great woman who was the first elected female president on the African continent. Her name is Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, who is going to hand over the pass to George Weah, the Liberian ex-football former star who has become the president of Liberia tomorrow. And it is also the occasion to greet great women from Europe like Angela Merkel, and to talk about this great woman from the United States. Her name is Oprah Winfrey. Since her sensational speech at the Golden Globes, Oprah Winfrey, who comes from Mississippi, and now this lady who we call Oprah Winfrey has been touted as the favorite candidate to beat Donald Trump in the 2020 elections. From her birth in Mississippi to her Hollywood glory, the first African-American woman to become a billionaire with well access to the White House. She is our focus of today in our program 7th Round. Ladies and gentlemen, take a look at the portrait and the story of this astonishing woman, and we'll be back for the debate.
Potential because of, we quote, her boundless empathy and her supernatural ability to communicate in a powerful and authentic way, like we saw it during the Golden Globes. Oprah's life, nicknamed the Queen of All Media, is most fascinating. Born in a modest environment in Mississippi, sexually abused by several family members at the age of 9, she has carved out an empire that is worth a whopping $3 billion US. Her show, The Oprah Winfrey Show, aired from Chicago from 1986 to 2011, was the most watched in American television history. All that she touches turns into gold, to the point that we could speak of Oprah effect. In 2015, she joined Weight Watchers for 10% and became a member of its board of directors. The courses of the slimming products company immediately flew away. Multi-cut, Oprah has also played several roles in cinema, more or less significant. Oprah, who according to the DNA test she made for the PBS channel had Bamileke ancestors, Bantu and Pele, remained close to her African origins. In 2007, she founded a girls' school in South Africa. On the political side, she was resolutely engaged in 2007 in favor of Barack Obama, in which she recognized the elected, thus boosting its popularity. The polls held in the famous Golden Globes, according to Politico, revealed that a majority of Republican voters and, more surprisingly, Democrats do not wish that Oprah Winfrey presents herself, a story to be continued.
The program is 7th Round, ladies and gentlemen, because you are watching Label Television. You are privileged televiewers. I am Evan Bala, your host for this program, and I am on set not alone. I am with Gauthier Perchano, and we have a lady, a Cameroonian lady, young entrepreneur and 100% Pan-Africanist who is online. She is in Brussels, Belgium. Her name is none other but Mrs. Kele Farida. Mrs. Kele Farida, I jump back to you directly after this wonderful interview and astonishing report on Oprah Winfrey. What you, as a young entrepreneur, what does the story of this woman inspire you?
Actually, Oprah is really an inspiration because one of the projects I work on it was inspired by her and her TV network and this program that she has that she always does with Indiana Valzat. And the thing with Oprah, and she persevered and she actually used all those things to become the woman she is today. And there is no strength, no bigger strength than that. For her to accomplish everything she has accomplished by herself and be the first billionaire African woman on planet Earth, having lived all that she's lived, she is someone that needs to stay in the books forever and ever because it's absolutely amazing.
Mr. Gauthier Perchano, because you are a man, I will return to you right now and ask you, seeing this woman at the age of 9, she was raped, she has gone through a lot of things because she was even raped by family members. Like Mrs. Kele Farida was saying, after her rape, she got a child which she finally lost, but above all things, She had the show that was watched all over America and the greatest show in the American history. She is an example for Africans and even for all the young ladies across the world. What does the story of this astonishing woman inspire to you?
Wow. When I look at such a story, the only words, coming through my mind is just wow. Why? Because first of all, remembering that, at the age of 9, she was raped, and she might have, endured a kind of a trauma. But as she was growing up, she decided to forget about it, and she decided to say, okay, I am a woman, and I have to, use the strength that a woman has, because that a woman is somebody who's strong. Even sometimes some people would say even stronger than a man. I'm not a feminist, The other day I was reading, a book, and there was a quotation which really marked me. The quotation was saying, women have always claimed that they are equal to men, but this is totally wrong, because what a man can do, they can do it twice better, even 10 times better. And so coming back to the story of this woman, what I have to say is that she's a black woman, and she's
with African origins.
With African origins. So we have to state it, with African origins. And she's what we can call an accomplished woman. She's a really, really successful woman. And if you try to put this question to girls, that if you were to be a successful woman, what figure would you like to be? They will definitely tell you that I would like to be like Oprah. So,
like me.
Okay.
I would like to be like Oprah, and I think it is the dream of most young African and even younger girls around the world.
Yeah, of course, it's the dream
because she's appreciated both by the white community in America and the black and the Afro-American community.
Of course. What is to be very hard, because let us remember that in America, we still have this, racism issue.
Yeah.
And of course, as you can see, what's going on today with Donald Trump, Mr. President, and
who treated the African continent of a shithole continent.
Oh, this is a word I don't want to say here on the set. But anyway, I think the fact of being loved not only by the white community, but also by the black community, I think this is an asset, because of course, since racism is really waving America today, I think this is an asset for her, and this is just an example, so there's not much we can say.
But I think with the reign of Barack Obama compared to the reign of Donald Trump, Barack Obama proved them wrong and showed them that Africans and even black Americans have their position in their society, and even are great people.
This is even one of the reasons why Oprah Winfrey can stand a chance, because when Barack Obama came on power, it's true that he had some decisions, that can be, discussable.
Yeah, like he himself, he said during his outgoing speech that he regretted a lot his intervention in Libya and in Syria, because today those are the great damages that he can state about his mandate at the head of the United States of America.
Of course, let us just remember that he is a man, and as a man, apart from being the president of the United States, so we have to understand that he is a man, and as a man, sometimes we have some choices which we are sure, but after they prove to be not the right ones.
Not the right ones. Mrs. Kele Farida, I come back to you to ask you as a young entrepreneur, seeing Oprah living from an entrepreneur to a Hollywood star, to a TV host, to an actress, what do you think, and what is your vision about all this, about the story of this astonishing woman?
She told me that there was no failure, actually. When when things happen, for example, I recently organized an event and I lost 20,000 euros in that event. And at some point I was really depressed, because it's not like I have that much money. And I sat back and I told myself, well, Oprah, she lost money, she lost a lot, but she went on with her vision.
She lost her childhood.
Her project. Yes, and so what would she do in my place? She would just move on and continue, because you need to know that after you've been through a lot, or after you've been through a headache or lost something or failed in something, it actually requires a lot of motivation and mental strength to get back up and to do what you have to do in order to attain your objective and your goal. So every time I look at her and I tell myself, if she did it, then I can do it. She's black as me, she is a woman as I am, and she's a billionaire. So if she can do it, then I can do it. Oprah's story is really inspiring because she's someone that really hasn't always been she's not a show off. She does what she has to do and that's it. She's not looking for something bigger every time. She's just doing what she loves doing. That's also something that young women should learn how to learn how to embrace difficulties and to embrace failure, because there is no success without failure, but also staying focused and having always seen the bigger picture. There are always going people to tell you that you're not good enough. There are always going to be someone that is going to fire you or to diminish you, but you need to stay strong and to always have your main objective ahead of you, because who knows, you can be the next Oprah one day. And the fact that she did it obviously proves that everyone can do it, because she came from the hood, as you said. So she lived the same situation that a lot of us lived, a lot of African youths are living right now. And she decided to take her life into her own hands and to make it what she wanted it to be. So when we were talking about entrepreneurship and the youth in Africa later on, I think they should find, and it's actually a good thing to find someone that you look up to in order to inspire yourself from that person. And we're really lucky to have an Oprah, and it's a really good thing. For me, I actually think that if she runs for president in 2020, she has very high chances to win, because she has won people's heart, be it white people or black people. So she has a very good notoriety. She's actually a leader, as they say, because she has managed to make her place in a society that wasn't, first of all, favorable to her as a black woman, as a black person, and favorable to her as a black woman. So that she's amazing.
You as an entrepreneur, before we close this program and before we tell you goodbye, Mrs. Kele Farid, I remind you, ladies and gentlemen, that she is a Cameroonian young entrepreneur and 100% Pan-Africanist who resides in Brussels in Belgium. I would like to ask you, before telling you goodbye, what is the advice you can give to your younger brothers and sisters on the African continent?
I will tell them to dream, because their dream is actually the biggest wealth. Their dreams is actually the biggest wealth they will ever have. So dream big and to follow that dream and to keep it in mind whenever they do anything. I will also advise them to embrace failure, as I said earlier on, to really embrace failure and to find strength in failure, because there is so much strength in failing, because there is no winning without failing. When you fail, you have a chance to start back over, and that's actually a good thing. They need to put in your head that failing is a good thing, and they need to also tell themselves that not because your life is this way today that it's always going to be that way. You have the power to change your life. You have the power to make your life what you want it to be. And don't sleep till it's that way. Don't rest till it's that way. Don't give up till it's that way. And that's the only way it's going to happen. I always tell myself, well, my mom always told me, you're 100% responsible of anything that happens to you. It doesn't matter where it came from, who caused it, you let that happen, and you have to take responsibility for it. So be responsible for your own life. That's the advice that I would give to the young Africans on the continent.
We thank you, Mrs. Kele Farida, for your intervention during this program. You're always welcome, and we wish you well as a young African entrepreneur in Belgium. Goodbye.
Thank you for having me. Goodbye.
Mr. Gauthier Prochano, in 1 minute or in a few seconds, your conclusion, please.
My conclusion is, first of all, this has been a very great program, and what I have to tell to my younger African brothers and sisters is that, of course, everything usually starts with a dream, okay? Everything usually starts with a dream. So you have to dream and dream and dream and dream. And I think dreaming is not only the only thing you have to do, but you also have to stand up, because, dreaming without action will be just in vain. You have to stand up. You have to say, okay, the biggest riches that I have is my brains and also my body. So I have an idea, I have to stand up and make it work, because tomorrow is yet to come. You know, nothing is over. So I just have to work harder and harder and harder, and I can even get like Oprah Winfrey. Oprah Winfrey, who we can just, you know, recall a little bit. She started from the bottom, and today she's kind of, you know, the most successful woman in terms of TV presentation and all those things.
Thank you, Mr. Gauthier-Perchano. We thank the entire technical staff of Label Television, which was led by none other but Babacar Ndiaye. And at the sound, you had Bill Menge, the powerful Bill Menge, who permitted us to be in straight communication with Mrs. Kele Farida from Belgium. At the camera, you had Medou Ndiaye and Moussando. Ladies and gentlemen, this was 7th Round, your program every Sunday, 4 p.m. exactly Central African Time. Stay tuned to Label Television for the upcoming programs. Goodbye and see you next week with other hot topics.